All right, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Suburbia podcast, and I'm joined by Joe Amos from Moultrie Mobile. And Joe and I have been able to get to know each other over the last year since you came up to the Huntstock, Massachusetts event, and we've kept in touch. And now, you're a good friend of mine. I want to talk to you about hunting. I want to talk to you about kind of where you grew up and the type and style of hunting that you do. Being from the South, it's a lot different than the Northeast up here, and how we hunt. And then the kind of second half of the podcast, we'll jump into what you're working on at Moultrie Mobile. New products that are hitting the pipeline, new features on the Edge Pro camera, and your Moultrie Mobile field team that you've been kicking off, and then what people can expect to see at Huntstock from Moultrie. But Joe, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So why don't we start? Because I don't know too much about how you hunt, and where you hunt, and the style. Is it bait? Is it in a state where you can bait? I don't know all those details. Can you fill me in a little bit on how you hunt and how you got into hunting?
Sure. So how I got into hunting. I didn't grow up in a huge hunting family. From the time that I could crawl and walk, I was on tractors. Grew up in a huge farming family, so something always outside, outdoors. So on tractors, baling hay and working in the garden and things like that. And my granddad had like an 8-acre lake on our farm property, so he got me started out there with brim fishing with cane poles. Those are some really awesome times to look back on, and that led up to bass fishing and then small game. And eventually, once I was old enough to handle a gun, got out and started doing a little bit of deer hunting. So that's kind of my roots, right? That's where I always come back to of what I enjoy. Played ball all through school and college. So that kind of took
Baseball?
football.
Oh, football.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that kind of took me out of hunting as much as I would want to for a large chunk of time, because as you well know, that a commitment like that, especially at the college level, that's a year-round commitment. And the height of the hunting season and when all that is going on is when you're on the field, right? So
Yeah.
that was certainly a challenge to navigate. But then I would say back in my early 20s is when I came back to just that core passion of hunting in the outdoors and the things that really drove me. And so I've been going full tilt ever since. It's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me breathing. So I'm super excited. If it's anything to do with the outdoors or hunting, I'm all in.
Now, how old do you have to be to handle a firearm in Alabama?
I believe you have to hunt by yourself. Don't quote me on this, but I think you have to be 16. I may be completely off. That's been a long time ago. But I mean, as long as you're with a licensed hunter, I'm not sure there's necessarily like a certain age that you have to be.
Yep, that's interesting. I feel like it would be um, you know, being a southern state, that there would be hardly any regulations on that. I grew up in Vermont, and you can start hunting. I think I passed my hunter safety course when I was 7, and I was hunting with my dad with my own gun. Probably till I was 11, and then I was just hunting on my own. And it's just interesting seeing how different states do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then what about archery hunting? Do you do any archery hunting?
Oh, 100%. Gotten really big into archery lately. I mean, I've been archery hunting for a very long time, but um, so in Alabama, we have quite the season. So our archery season comes in October 15th, give or take,
Yep.
and the whole season runs from then nonstop all the way until February the 10th. But archery season, it runs from about October 15th to right around Thanksgiving, and then rifle season comes in. At that point, most people, not everybody, but most people are going to switch over to a rifle at that point and hunt the rest of the season. Um, but yeah, I hunt every archery season in Alabama, and I've been really, because of Moultrie, I've been heavily involved in the TAC events the last few years, which, that's always got a bow in my hand. So love archery hunting and just archery in general, even if it's outside of hunting. If you're just doing 3D stuff, it's awesome.
Oh yeah. How many buck tags do you get in Alabama?
You get three. So you can take 3 antlered deer each season in Alabama, but you can also take a doe a day for the entire season from October to February.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that because we had a guy at our deer camp who in Vermont who would go to Alabama, and he was like, "Hey, you can shoot so many does down there." He was always talking about how many deer were down there, and yeah, you could stack up 20 does if you were down there for long enough, and come back with a bunch of meat, and that's what he would always do.
Yeah, no doubt. It's very lucrative from that standpoint. And, you know, we have the opportunity also to donate meat. So, once you've filled your own freezers and your families, we have local food banks and food pantries that, you can get out there and enjoy the sport and still be helping people that are needy in the community, which is an awesome feeling.
How are the buck tags divvied up down there? Is it three? You can get three for the year, and it doesn't matter what kind of equipment you take it with, or is it like one with a gun, one with a bow?
It's three per licensed hunter, regardless of the means used.
Yep. All right. Sweet.
Yep.
And when does your, because I know your rut falls later. When do you say the peak of your rut is down there in Alabama?
Yeah, so like in most areas, it can vary from one part of the state to the other, but generally speaking, at least in the areas where I'm most familiar, the second week in January is money. That's You can set your watch by it. That January the 7th through kind of the 16th, that's really prime time in Alabama.
And what kind of land are you hunting? Is it public land? Is it farms that you got to get permission on? Like what's the lay of the land down there for someone that wants to hunt Alabama?
So yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of public land and opportunities like that. Me personally, I hunt private land. So the we have in Alabama, we have a lot of clubs. I'm not sure if it's that way in the Northeast, but we have, like, where you would have, say, 10, 20, 30 guys. You join a club, and then that club leases an amount of property, and the dues that you pay to be a part of that club is what goes to pay the leases. So it's essentially at that point private land, but you're just hunting it with other people in your club.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of that in the Northeast. There's definitely some. What you see is like you see rod and gun clubs, and they might own 200 to 400 acres, and there's a lot of people that pay to be involved in those clubs. But a lot of them are just there to use it for shooting ranges and stuff, and they tend to actually kind of get underhunted. It's not like if there's 200 members, they're all hunting. It ends up being a lot less. So we have those kinds of clubs, and but what you don't see a lot of land leases up here where people are forming their own hunting clubs. And we kind of don't want it to get to that either, because then it just changes the ball game. There's so much public land up here to hunt, and I don't know if you know this, but Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine, they all have it's like old laws where people don't really post their land unless they're kind of new. They just bought a whole bunch of land and they're kind of new to it. But the way it's always been is you don't post your land and anybody can hunt it. So there's actually laws in those states that as long as land is unposted, and there's big tracts of land, a lot of it's owned by timber companies and paper companies, things like that, logging operations, and they don't post their land, so it's basically open to the public, and it's kind of cool because it provides a lot of opportunity up here to go find your own spot, and the woods don't get crowded that way. But if everybody was posting their land and trying to sell leases and stuff, it would be real tough because we have so many hunters up here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Something I learned from you and your group when we were at Huntstock last year, that was very foreign to me, and the way we operate in other areas of the country is, like, a lot of your success and trophy and things like that is dictated by how many inches of horn that a buck has. And that's just the way it's always been and the way I've always known it. But talking to a lot of the folks up there that are local to that area at Huntstock, I learned that the tracking of deer is so critical, and it's actually the body size and the weight is much more important to the hunter than how many inches of bone it has. So that's just something that I've carried with me from this last year, and I tell people that story because to me it's so foreign, but it's just the way it is there, which is awesome.
Yeah, such a unique culture up here for sure. Like trackers, everybody wants to know the weight of the deer, whether you're a bow hunter or not. Like weight is it's a needed statistic. People still drive their deer to check-in stations, get the official weights. And we just, we love and we're obsessed with body weight. And of course, if you get a nice rack on the deer, it's a bonus, and no one's gonna, you know, say that that's not a big part of it. But those trackers, it's that 200-pound mark. They want a 200-pound buck, and that's basically like shooting a 150 inch deer is like you get a 200-pounder. Doesn't matter if it has a 100-inch rack on it. If it's 200 pounds, he's an old mature buck up here, and there's just something about that number. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. So like you're hunting. So you hunt private, and are you a part of a club?
I am.
Yep. How many acres does your club lease out?
We have 4,000 for the club right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many members?
So kind of like what you said, you get into a point where you have a certain number of members, but that doesn't mean that that's how much pressure the property is getting. So if we have, say, 35 members, there are going to be, a certain percentage of that, probably a third that, they're social members. It's just part of the culture of being at deer camp. Maybe they've aged past the point where they really care about hunting, but it's all about the fellowship and sitting around the campfire, things like that. So, there's about 35 members in the club where I hunt, but, with 4,000 acres and maybe on any given day, 15 people hunting, that's really not a whole lot of pressure on that property.
Yeah. Sweet. Do you have what's your buck management strategy in the club? Do you have like minimums and stuff, or you only shoot mature deer? Like, how does that lay out?
Yeah. So we've changed it over the years. It used to be, minimum standard was 4 points on one side. So, you had a lot of 7 points that got killed. And then we changed that to an 8-point or better strategy. That went on for a little while. And then now we have metrics. So, minimum weight 160 pounds, and then minimum inside spread 14 inches, and main beam length is 18.
How do you know if a deer is 160 pounds?
That's a great question. Through your time in the field, and you're an accomplished hunter, you know what to look for in a deer's body. That swaying belly, the barrel chested swaying belly, and then the arched back. There's a lot of things that can tip you off to the age of a deer when you're judging it on the hoof, but it sure doesn't make it easy when that moment comes and the adrenaline is pumping and you're like, okay, sometimes you have to make a split second decision, and sometimes it doesn't always go in your favor, but it's just a way to hopefully take more mature deer. And I'll be honest with you, I've made a few mistakes. There's been times when deer didn't meet the standard, and that's just all a part of being super excited, pumped, thrilled. You do so much work to get out in the field, right? And the time comes and you're like, I think it's a good one, and sometimes you're taking a chance. So,
yeah. What is the land like? Is it mostly forested? Do you have some agriculture in there? Like, what is, and is it hilly or flat, swampy? What is it like?
So the area that I hunt is, it's really river bottom. So we hunt, our property is bordered basically on 3 sides by a river called the Tom Bigby River. And it's extremely flat. Like the old timers will say, they're trying to tell you where to go. And it's like, go over that ridge. And I'm like, what ridge? That little 1 foot elevation. But yeah, it's very flat, very swamp, lots of palmettos. You're right on the river. It's really an interesting place. And then because of that, the soil is so nutrient rich. It's that deep, dark, black soil. It's called, the area where the property is located is in what's called the Black Belt in Alabama, which is the most prime hunting that you can get in the state. And it's for that reason, because it has the nutrients to produce what it takes these bucks to grow and mature.
So you must have some pretty good bucks running around that property then every year.
There's definitely some good bucks taken off of our property every year, 160 and above.
Yeah. So you got some booners there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now how do you tackle, as far as scouting and stand placement and things like that? What do you do in your strategy? And do you shed hunt? Do you get out there? Because I do a lot of my scouting during shed season, getting out and looking for sheds. And you still see all the signs, the scrapes from the year before to stand out. You find all your deer runs and stuff. I really like to do that. And then usually I get my cameras out in the woods with mineral, because you can put mineral down here, and I don't know if you can in Alabama.
Sure.
Um, I like to get them out in April or May to really get the mineral, get the deer used to the mineral, get them getting better nutrition throughout the whole summer, and I like to see them, growing in velvet. So that's kind of my scouting strategy. But I wonder how yours, how does yours differ, or maybe it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, I would say similar. Don't do a whole lot of shed hunting, but turkey season comes in right behind deer season. So um, use a lot of time in the turkey woods, and that's going to tell you a lot about what the deer are doing.
Yeah.
Also, running cameras all year long, and then we're allowed to feed all year long in Alabama. So, you've always got bait sites and feed sites where you can monitor, what bucks made it through the season. And then, typically that's going to give you a lot of intel going into the next season from what you discover during turkey season.
So do you guys have like, if you, if you have a stand location, do you put a feeder out in front of your stand location? Does the club kind of run, feeders in the whole feeding program, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we as a club, we have a feeding program where we feed corn and protein most of the year. Now, as a club, we don't
Yeah.
feed during the active deer season. We stop that. You as an individual, if you want to feed and hunt over the feed, you absolutely are legal to do so. So there are there are some stand locations where I like to hunt food plots in the evening. Just always have a lot of success seeing a ton of deer. So right on the edge of a food plot, they're going to be coming into those food plots in the evening. But morning hunts, I have stands set up that I will have a feeder that's out in front of that stand location.
That's cool. So do like scrapes not come into play as much in a place like yours where you're allowed to feed? Like how do you look at scrapes and hunt scrapes if you do?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had some success hunting over scrapes, hunting around scrapes. It's not a huge part of my tactic. Like, um, what I try to do is key in on where are the does, right? If you hunt the does during the rut, the bucks are going to be there, right? Um, so I'll typically key in on the season, like where are the does bedding, where is a lot of that doe activity, and then come, December, January, the does aren't going to move. The bucks are going to push them around a little bit, but typically where your does are is where your bucks are going to show up.
Yep. Do you know how many deer per square mile you have approximately down there?
I don't. That's a really good question.
Like, I wonder what the deer in the suburbs where I'm at. You get 20 to 30 deer per square mile here, and that's considered a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but from what I've heard about the South, I was always hearing, oh my gosh, it's 75 to 100, deer per square mile down there, and you're just up to your eyeballs in does.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact deer density like numbers, but yes, Alabama is known as a very dense deer state. We have, in the right areas, there's no shortage of deer to get out and hunt and observe. Um, but some areas of the state are a lot better than others. I mean, where I live in Birmingham, which is kind of central Alabama, around the city, you just don't see a whole ton of deer. And I've hunted places around the city with very minimal luck, but especially where I've been hunting the last 10 years, you know, you're going to see on average 10 to 20 deer every time you go to a stand,
Yeah,
which is,
that's
I feel like
crazy.
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. I see maybe 10 deer, and that's a lot around here. On average, on the average tip. There's plenty of days I don't see anything. If it's a good day, I'll see 10 deer. What about buck to doe ratio? Is it pretty healthy down there, or is it skewed?
No, I think it's pretty. I mean, I think it's all according to like how you manage your property, right? I think the state does a good job with helping to manage. I mean, that's when you get a doe a day, but you're limited to $3. That's certainly been helpful because before that law was in place, you could take a buck and a doe a day, and
Yeah.
it didn't matter if it was a spike, it was going down. Um, but we've definitely seen the increase in the herd and the health of the herd since those limitations have been in place.
When did that start? When did that the new limitation get into place
It
on the
seems like I
bugs?
remember it for the first time somewhere around maybe 12 years ago, and that may be off a little bit, but that's about the time frame that I feel like I remember that coming into play.
Yeah, so relatively recently, but you're already seeing the fruits of that.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because I would imagine before that you were just seeing a lot of small bucks.
Absolutely. I mean,
Just
they didn't
couldn't
get the
get old.
opportunity to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sweet. How what about when it gets to rifle season? When does rifle season start?
Around Thanksgiving, it's usually that kind of that
Oh,
last
okay.
week of November.
So the whole rut is you're able to hunt with a rifle.
That's right.
And so the bow season continue, so
It
you
does.
can hunt with a bow as well during the rut.
That's exactly right. So once you get to, October 15th through February is when you can hunt with a bow. So it overlaps. Once the rifle season comes in, if you want to keep hunting with a bow, you can. But most people, if they like to rifle hunt, they're going to pick up the rifle and put down the bow for the rest of the season come Thanksgiving.
So what do you do? What do you do during the rut? Do you use a bow or a rifle?
I use a rifle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you really get to open up your odds at that point.
yeah. Totally. Now, what does it look like from an elevated point in that terrain? Because in really flat places, sometimes being on the ground, depending on the cover, you can see farther. Are you hunting with a rifle up in your stand? And what's the vegetation like? Is it you can see a real long ways and you got lots of shooting lanes?
Yeah, absolutely. So the area where I personally hunt, we're talking old woods. These are woods that have never been touched by, we've started to kind of clear cut a little bit here and there and select cut, but like they're just old, mature woods where you can, when you're in the woods, you can see for hundreds of yards. Um, and then, we have also, we do box blinds, right? So we build blinds, we put those on the edge of big food plots. So in some cases, you're looking 400 yards or you're looking 200 yards one way and 200 yards the other way. Um, so like being able to see is not really an issue. You're going to be able to see as far as your weapon is going to be effective.
Now, trail cam strategy. Um, I imagine you have your camera set up on the feeders, postseason and preseason to see, who survived and things like that. But during the season, how does that work down there? Do you have some cameras set up on, you know, runs coming into your stand, and are you allowed to hunt the same day as you get a cell cam picture sent to you? Because there's some states up here and I guess across the country where there's different laws. So how does that all shake out down there?
Yeah, so there's no limitations for cell cam usage. You can have them run them all year long. There's no like you don't have to take them out or take them down at a certain point or be mindful of that. You can literally do what you want with them. My strategy is I will typically put a camera over where I have feed because I know that that's going to attract the wildlife. Um, if I stumble across something interesting in the woods, maybe a scrape, it just kind of depends. I've always got extra cameras in the side by side, so if there's a need, I've got one to throw up. But typically, I have my sites where I know that I want to have cameras, and I'll just use that intel all year long.
Yeah. Yeah, because for me up here, we don't really, you can't feed during the season and stuff. So yeah, I do put some on food sources if there's a hot, oak tree dropping a lot of acorns. Um, Put a camera up there, but I usually reserve my cell cameras for scrapes, annual scrapes, the ones that are just beaten down year after year, and you've got every buck in the area stops in there at some point. I like to put them on those annual scrapes, and I typically don't put them too close to bedding unless there just happens to be some bedding near the scrapes or the food sources. But yeah, a hot oak tree or those big, undeniably annual scrapes, and I think a lot of the guys in the Northeast that's one thing. And some people will put them on signpost rubs too. Have you heard of that? A
I have,
signpost rub?
I have.
Yeah. Yep. Do you guys have those down there? The trees that just get rubbed year after year?
We do. There are some, and to your point, like there are areas where let's say I've identified that this is a very heavily used doe bedding area, and like I said, I hunt those does during the rut.
Yeah.
So I have good luck sometimes with placing a cell camera early season outside of a good bedding area that we've identified that like there's always a lot of activity here, and that allows me to be able to go in, deploy the camera, back out, and I don't have to touch that area again until something starts getting exciting in that area. And it gives me intel for months, and I don't have to disturb the area until I'm ready to go
Yep.
hunt.
Yeah. How many cameras do you have out on your property?
28.
Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So you probably you got to send me some pictures. I need some. I need to see some of these pictures of these bucks that you're looking at for this year. I want to see what those Alabama rackers look like.
Absolutely. We've got some good ones growing. I think it's going to be a really good year.
Yeah, I think I told you, but I just been slacking. Normally, I have a bunch of cameras out now. I've got mineral out and some corn piles and stuff because you can do that before the season here. But Huntstock has just got me so busy this year, especially with two shows, that I'm just way behind. I have one holdover camera. I have one Moultrie Mobile camera still sending me pictures from last year that I'm gonna have to go change those batteries out soon. So
How long have you had that
I'm
camera
kind of
running?
it's been there in that spot with those batteries since last June,
That's a
last May or June.
that's a testament to the efficiency of these cameras.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean it's and it's in one of my really good spots. There's a beauty in there that was probably high 150s 10 pointer, and I can't wait to see. He dropped his horns and some guy actually went by the Moultrie mobile camera with him. He wasn't like holding him up like that. He was trying to like hide himself, and I was like, no shit, he got those that 10 point set. So I know that deer made it at least to the time he shed his horns, and I can't wait to see what he is this year. If he's a bigger 10 or 12, but he's a nice one. I don't think I've got him on camera yet. All I have is let me show you on that camera. It looks like a pretty decent start to a buck, but he's young. Can you see that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was like June 16th. He had a good start. They really don't start showing their racks until July up here.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit later down there because I bet they don't shed till May a lot of times, huh?
Um, you know, Most are going to drop by, and obviously there's some outliers, but most are going to drop in that late February, March timeframe.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because so it's the same here. Most drop around then, um, but we have some that will drop in April, and rarely you'll have them drop in May. But I figured with the testosterone levels being I don't know 5 or 6 weeks later down there for the peak of the rut, that they would typically drop a little bit later,
Yeah, I mean, so we
and
have
that
the does that don't get bred during the initial rut. I've kind of seen like a second rut come in. So in kind of mid February, some bucks have gone back into bachelor groups, and I've seen them out there with like say a group of 6 bucks, and three have got all of their rack, and then three have already dropped one, and that would be in
yeah
mid to late February.
yeah yeah that's crazy. Now, do you hunt anywhere else besides Alabama? Do you go to other states and hunt, or what's that look like?
I've been starting to get opportunities to go other places. It's primarily been Alabama, but like last year I had an opportunity to go with one of our partners to Kentucky to their lease, and wow, the difference between Alabama and Kentucky deer is wild. I killed 2 does with my bow that probably weighed more than most bucks that you kill in Alabama, and
Yeah,
the buck that I took, decent 8 point, and I know that deer went over 240. It's just wild. It just makes our deer look like little billy goats sometimes.
yeah, yeah. So I was thinking that too. A 160 pound deer down there is probably like 200 pounds up here, right? Is it like that's like a big mature buck?
Yeah, I mean, 160s. That's. I mean, and there are some. I've seen some deer killed in Alabama, the 170, 180. But yeah, if you've killed a 160-pound buck in Alabama, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, because I know there's smaller deer down there, body wise. All right, guys, Huntstock, New York is right around the corner, July 19th through the 21st at Vernon National Shooting Preserve in Vernon Center. It's the first time we brought the show to New York, so I'd love for all you Adirondack trackers to come on down to the show, and anybody who hunts down in the southern zones and enjoys hunting with a bow, and whether it's in the woods or farm country, we've got a little bit of everything for everybody down there. But on the tracking side, we're going to have seminars from Joe Donito and Jim Massett, the local guys there who made a good name for themselves, incredible trackers. Lanny Benoit coming down from Vermont to do seminars, and Hal Blood coming over from Maine to do seminars. We also have guys like Bo Martonic coming up from Pennsylvania in the East Meets West podcast. He's got a ton of knowledge, and he's quite the hunting celebrity these days, as well as Josh Ilderton coming up from West Virginia. His page, The Untamed, does some really incredible stuff. They do spot and stock bow hunting in West Virginia, so it's cool. You get to spot and stock like you would out west, but doing it on the east. He's a great guy too. So in terms of seminars, speakers, content creators, we've got a great lineup there. And for sponsors, we've got an awesome lineup too. Bushnell's coming up and displaying all their different types of optics that are good for tracking. They've got, low power scopes and red dots and things like that, plus binoculars and rangefinders. We've got Moultrie Mobile coming, displaying their cell cams and talking about all the new features they've got going on. Plus Tacticam will be there as well. On the bow side, we've got Prime Archery and Bowtech coming up and displaying their latest bows. On the gun side, Woodman Arms will be down there, and if you've always wanted to shoot a Woodman Arms muzzleloader, this is a great chance because they're going to be set up at the Bushnell Optics rifle range, and you can go up there and shoot 3 different types of Woodman Arms with different types of Bushnell optics for free. Just you take a golf cart up. It's a little drive up the farm road there to the rifle range, and have a great experience getting to test out a Woodman Arms with Bushnell optics. And again, that's free, and you'll get an extra door prize ticket for that. We're giving away about $25,000, probably be more by the time the show rolls around, and door prizes from bows, Woodman Arms, muzzleloaders, tons of optics, over 30 cell cameras, a bunch of different saddle brands. We've got a bunch of saddle companies coming, from Trophy Line to Hunt Arsenal, Buzzard Roost, New York Saddle Hunters, Timber Ninja. Tethered is giving some stuff away. So if you've always wanted to figure out and try to get yourself into a saddle, see what that's all about, you'll be able to test that out there from a bunch of different brands, learn different climbing methods. And we've got a 3D archery course, of course, 20 targets that'll get you out there prepared for the bow season if you're a bow hunter. And just lots of cool activities, great stuff for kids. We've got a fishing pond. Bring your kids. All kids under 12 are free. And, bring your kids, bring their poles, some bait, and they can fish in the pond. Plus, we'll have a bouncy house and an inflatable archery course for them. And beyond that, we're just going to have a great time. So go to www.huntstockevents.com to get your tickets. And you can get tickets at the door as well. Again, it's July 19th through the 21st at Vernon National Shooting Preserve in Vernon Center. We look forward to seeing you guys there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Moultrie Mobile, what you've been working on at Moultrie Mobile. And why don't we just start out with what's the new product this year that you guys are going to be promoting a lot at Huntstock, and just go through some of those features?
Yeah, so I think it's best to kind of start with where we've been and then kind of lead up to where we are today. So Moultrie, last year, we came out with an Edge and an Edge Pro. This was all new technology. So it brought 2 main things that absolutely changed the industry. as far as cell cams go. A is the built-in memory. So, we've talked about it, Pat. No longer do you need an SD card in these cameras. It's all internal memory. The camera takes the image, it processes it through the Moultrie Mobile system up to the cloud, and it's on your app. The reason we did that is because not with Moultrie cell cams specifically, but in the industry as a whole, what we found is that the number one failure point in the technology was the SD card, because the image had to transfer through that SD card, a file in the SD card, before it could upload.
Yep.
And if you didn't buy the right SD card, if you didn't
format it right,
if you didn't format it right, if and some things just naturally mess up, right? Things aren't perfect. So if an SD card just messes up, that created the number one customer service call. And we said, you know what? If it's a problem, why don't we just get rid of it, right? We don't want our consumers to have problems. We want them to have a seamless experience. So we really tackled that, and that was a huge win. So the built-in memory is just awesome. And then another feature that we brought with the original Edge series was something called Auto Connect. Used to, you would go to a big box store and you're looking around and you see these cameras hanging on the wall, and some said AT&T and some said Verizon. And I remember thinking at one point, it's like, well, I've got an AT&T phone in my pocket, so I guess I need that camera, not knowing that had nothing to do with that. It's where you had the best service in the area where you're going to deploy the camera was what made that purchasing decision. Do I need AT&T or Verizon? So knowing that was a, something that our consumers battled, and it was always a question, we said, what if we just made a camera that connected to any cell signal? It doesn't matter where you're at. You just turn it on and it grabs the strongest one and it just works. So we did that. And those two features right there really changed everything in the cell cam game.
What goes into that, by the way? Like, because I wonder why, cell cameras previously were doing that, splitting it Verizon, AT&T. What's the behind the scenes there where was it like they were contracted with those carriers, or how did that work? How come that wasn't solved faster?
That's a good question. So part of it, contracts, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff where, we have to, and that's not my job. So there are a lot of smart people that handle that, but, that you're working with different carriers, right? But then it also breaks down to the technology itself and the SIM card that's in the camera. We went to, without getting too technical, we just went to a new company that was able to give us, what we were looking for in the sense that this chip can connect to any cell carrier. And it's that's been huge.
Yep. That's cool. What about like Starlink? Does that help out in any way? Elon's Starlink, can the camera bounce pictures off of that?
You're talking to the wrong guy.
You're just the pretty face. You're the front of office, huh?
I don't know about all that either, but so that's what really changed everything last year. I feel like that just was a launching pad. So knowing that that's what we already have in place, we're already doing it. We're already doing it extremely well, and people love what we're putting out. We said, do we need to go and reinvent the wheel? I don't think so. We just build on the chassis and the platform that's already working and bringing better features and, more heightened specs to give you an even better experience with the Gen 2 models of these cameras. So if you like, I can hop into kind of the new features for 2024 and the cameras that we're about to drop next week.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So for instance, we had the Edge last year. This year we're coming with Edge 2. And last year the Edge was 33 megapixels. This year the Edge 2 is 36 megapixels. Last year the Edge was 720p on the video with audio. This year it's going to be 1080p with HD audio. We've increased the detection and flash range from 80 feet to 100 feet. The trigger speed is lightning fast at 0.4 seconds. That's going to be awesome. And then
what was the Edge Pro trigger speed?
The Edge Pro or the Edge?
Well, the one before you got the Edge Pro 2, right?
Yep.
That's 0.4 trigger speed coming out.
So the Edge 2 Pro, just as long as we're not getting confused, the Edge 2 Pro, that one's going to have a 0.3 second trigger speed.
Okay.
But the Edge 2 has 0.4. It just keeps
Okay.
getting quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet.
But yeah, kind of moving on to so the difference between the Edge and the Edge Pro from last year is the Edge Pro brought something called Live Aim. This is where you can Bluetooth into the camera with your smartphone, connect it, and then you're getting a live view on your phone for what the camera's seeing at that time. So when you're setting up the camera, you can get that perfect angle. It's not like, oh man, I left the camera, I'm an hour away and it's too low or it's
Yeah.
too high. You can
Yeah.
dial in that perfect shot right there in the field.
Yeah.
Um, and then it also had something called Smart Capture and Smart Zones. The way these two functions work is first, Smart Capture. You know, maybe you only want to see pictures of bucks. Maybe you don't care if it's a coyote in front of your camera or a raccoon or whatever it is. You have AI technology built into the camera where you can actually selectively say, this is what I want to see. And so you say, I only want to see pictures of bucks. Something triggers your camera, it's going to analyze it on the camera in the field before it ever connects to the server. And it's going to say, okay, well, Joe said he wants to see bucks only. Is this a buck? If the answer is no, you'll never see that picture. It won't waste battery life sending it to you. And it also keeps your gallery nice and clean. So you're customizing your experience to be exactly what you want it to be. And you're only seeing what you want to see rather than having to filter through the trash.
That's cool. Yeah, because one of the biggest things for battery life is false triggers and squirrels or raccoons and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Like you could just filter that out. Like I personally would still want to see does, but um, getting rid of like any false trigger and um, you know rodents and stuff like that, I think that would be awesome.
For sure, it is. And the other feature is I was talking about the smart zones. So I know you and I and anyone listening to this, we've had the situation where we've put out a camera, the grass grows up, it's waving in front of the camera, and it's just triggering it. And that's the way it's designed to work. Or a storm comes through, and now you've got a tree limb hanging down in the corner of your field of view, and it's just triggering until the batteries are dead. The way we combat that now is with smart zones. You can go in and look on your phone at the picture from your camera, and it basically lays a grid on top of the picture. If something is triggering in that zone, you can selectively turn off that zone or multiple zones. Now, anything that moves in that quadrant or that area of the grid, it won't trigger the camera anymore.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I say all that to say this. Now the Edge 2 Pro, it's going to have those same features. It's got the live aim. It's got the smart capture, the smart zones. But what both cameras, Edge 2 and Edge 2 Pro, a brand new feature that I think is going to blow people away is the on-demand feature. So now from the app, you can go in and request on demand a photo or a video from any camera that you have, or any of the new cameras, the Edge 2 and Edge 2 Pro, and it will take the picture or video and send it right to you immediately. So a couple of ways you could think of to use that is like if you're using it for security and you're just curious, what's on your front porch at your cabin or whatever, you can check in anytime. If you say you're walking into your stand and you don't want to blow that target buck out, you want to make sure the coast is clear, you can certainly do that. I have situations where I use it where I'll have, say, 20 deer in a field. There's one deer that's actually triggered the camera by walking in front of it. I can see the rest in the background, and I want to see what all is going on. So I can go in and request a video right then and get a better look at what's going on behind that deer that triggered the camera. So lots of
Yep.
use cases for that, but both of the new cameras will have that feature.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like some really great new technology. And you're gonna have those at Huntstock, New York.
So I would like to say yes, but we're cutting it really close because we launch both camera platforms on July 16th.
Okay.
I fly out to New York for Huntstock on, I think it's the 18th. So I've already planned to have the Edge and the Edge Pro there for sure. I hope I'm not bringing enough, but I'm bringing a bunch. So definitely want to get those into folks' hands. But yeah, as far as being able to on the spot get those cameras out, it's probably unlikely just because of how close it is to the launch.
Yeah, but will people? So maybe not physically have them there, but will people be able to buy them online during that weekend at Huntstock?
They will.
Yep. Sweet. Cool. Yeah, I like it. Now, why don't we talk a little bit about the field team that you've been tasked with building there at Moultrie Mobile and what goes into that, and let everybody know, because there's going to be a lot of people listening that might be interested in joining that.
Sure. So I think the best way to frame that up is we feel like we have something special with Moultrie right now, and that's not being boastful in any way. We've got a lot of very intelligent people that have worked very hard to bring an industry leading app with the best hardware, and we really feel like we have an experience that everybody should have the opportunity to hear about. And so the idea behind this field team is to gather a team of like-minded individuals that are super passionate about the outdoors and are also at the same time super passionate about using the Moultrie equipment to help execute what it is they're trying to achieve out in the field. And they're willing to go and be a voice for our brand, talk about the products, talk about how it helps them be successful. And so we're just looking for really go-getters, folks that love talking hunting like you and I do, love talking about products and what it could do for you. So that's a team that I've been working on building for about the last 4 or 5 months. And I'm telling you, the group that we've got together already is phenomenal. These folks are really out there pushing the message and making sure that everybody has the opportunity to hear about how Moultrie can help them be successful in the field.
And is that something that there's no minimum follower requirements or things like that, or like how does all that lay out?
Sure. So, I mean, there is an application process. This program, it has a lot of different, I don't want to kind of give away the playbook, but there's a lot of different opportunities within the program. Part of it is social media. So we would love to see a social media following for someone that's on this team, because we want our message out on those platforms. But there are also other opportunities where someone can really be tied in with us, be an extension of our brand, and help us in many other ways. So there's a lot of opportunity outside of social media, but I would say it doesn't hurt if you've got a pretty good social media following that we can help use and leverage that opportunity to get our messaging out.
So how does somebody who's interested go to the next steps of filling out that application? How do you want them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way to do it is if you go to our website, moultriemobile.com. The URL to take you right to the page is moultriemobile.com/field team. But if you just want to go to the website, you can scroll down to the footer of the website, and there's a link there for field team. That's going to take you to a page where you can put in an application. First of all, you can learn a few more details about the program. And if you like what you see and you're interested in being a part of, a winning brand, then you can go in and put in your application, and we will review that and reach out if it's something that we feel like would be a good fit.
Sweet. Awesome. Now let's just shift a little bit over to Huntstock. And, I just want to tell people that, you and Moultrie Mobile were one of the, national sponsors that believed in Huntstock, even though we were only going into year 2. Last year was your first year coming up. You believed in the vision. You guys invested some money as a sponsor. And then you showed up not knowing what to expect, coming from Alabama up to the Northeast. And I just want, to say thank you, first of all, for believing in it, continuing to believe in it. Now you guys are sponsoring both shows. But just tell people kind of what your experience was like at Huntstock. And, how did it live up to your expectations of what you were hoping to get out of it?
Sure. So, yeah, last year was year 2 for Huntstock, and you and I talked. You laid out the vision of what you felt like this was going to do for the festival goers, the folks that are going to come shoot 3D archery, and also the vendors that are going to come and spend valuable resources to be a part of your show. And it didn't take us long to really feel like this could be a good opportunity for us to get penetration in an area where maybe we didn't already have a whole lot of subscribers. And it was kind of taking a chance, a calculated guess that this was going to be a good thing. But I've got to say, when I showed up with my team on site last year in Massachusetts, I was just blown away by the way that the whole show is laid out and how it's really a community, right? I think that's the word, it is a community, and it just felt like everybody knew each other. Although you're making connections all over the place. I was definitely brand new, but everybody else knew each other, and
Yeah.
I loved how you and your team made sure that our brand was visible and got plenty of traction and people coming by. And um, yeah, I mean, it was just I brought enough equipment that I thought maybe could get out to people in a 3-day show, and about a day and a half into it, I was tapped out. And I had a day and a half to talk to people about the products, but nothing else to let them go home with. So all in all, and it's not about like these events. Um, it's almost more like an industry play. Like I don't go there to know that I'm going to sell a bunch of product. That's not really. It's more about having the conversations, networking, building the brand, building the vision with like again like-minded people. And if I've got awesome equipment that people want to go ahead and grab and take home with them, it's just a good opportunity for you to get it in your hands right there at the show.
Yeah, the sales part is a bonus. And yeah, I just think it's like sometimes when I'm having conversations with people in the industry, it's so easy to look at how many attendees we have versus other shows, right? And it's like, well, you guys are like 10 times smaller than these other shows that we invest at, and we set up booths at, and it can turn people off. And I just try to tell them like, yeah, but it's the people who come to Huntstock are just die-hard hunters. It's a smaller show because we wanted to stay like that, where it keeps that community feel and it doesn't feel like the Great American Outdoor Show or something like that. That's just a huge circus. We wanted to stay community oriented, and I think that's what we're doing. And it's just every single person that walks through that door and comes to Huntstock is somebody who is a diehard hunter. They're either diehards that have been hunting their whole life, or they're new to hunting, because we get a lot of those too. People who are they're new to it and they're gung ho about it, and they want to learn everything they can. They want to, get the right product recommendations, they're just soaking up everything that they can. And both of those consumers are just a really high quality consumer that will show brand loyalty and that you want to get in front of. And it's sometimes hard to, paint that picture. So like you said, you guys, you dove in, took a little bit of a risk because we were a smaller show. But I'm happy that you did, and I'm happy that you saw results and you see kind of what we're building at Huntstock and how it's different.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, going back to that networking and community. So I won't name drop for the folks that are on the field team. Maybe they wouldn't want me to, but I connected with so many people at that time in Massachusetts last year that I had no idea that I was going to build a field team last
Yeah.
August. But they're people that stayed in touch with me. I stayed in touch with them. And when the idea came about creating a field team, some of these people were the first people on the team because they want to grow themselves. They want to get a foot in the door of the outdoor industry, right? And grow their name, and being associated with a brand like Moultrie and really helping us push. It's just naturally, organically going to help them build too. So that for me was a huge win. Outside of no matter how much product we sold or anything like that, but just having those networking opportunities was really fruitful for us.
Yeah, cool. And hopefully your flight comes in. Yeah, I think you get in on Thursday. So the film festival on Thursday night at Huntstock this year is going to be something super special, I think. And yeah, I hope you're there to watch that, because that's just a whole another thing. Every year we're trying to, nobody wants to go to the same show every year. And I think that was the problem that a lot of shows that I had been going to, that's why their attendance was dwindling and sponsors were pulling out and stuff, because it was the same thing for 30 years. And we're constantly trying to evolve, just like you guys are, with new specs and better products. We're doing the same thing. We're always looking for new things, new speakers. We don't want the same exact speaker lineup every year, not the same door prizes every year. And we want new experiences to offer people. So this Thursday night, last year we just had a little VIP party. All the vendors and sponsors and volunteers got together and, maybe had a drink at the bar and some pizza, and we talked. And you might remember this. We talked about the film festival that Thursday night. We had about an hour talk on the Moultrie Mobile stage there. And that's kind of where this idea formed, was to let's build the same way we're trying to reinvigorate the Northeast and Northeastern hunters. And attract brands and sponsors that have kind of overlooked the Northeast for such a long time. We feel like there's never really been an event, a film festival event that has, you know, good prize money on the line and door prizes and stuff that they can win, that was focused just for Northeastern hunters, because it's so much harder to film up here and hunt up here. It's just everything is kind of harder to do in the Northeast. So that'll be a real special event. We're going to crown the top three, you know, new films at the first annual Huntstock Film Festival. So yeah, I can't wait for you to see that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I believe I'll get in plenty of time for that, especially if you have my booth set up for me when I show up. You know.
We'll see. We got a lot of hands on deck. We probably will have it. If it's all there, it'll probably be all done for you. We'll see.
Yeah,
you know how show running goes. There might be some fires that we got to go put out first, but
that's a definite.
Yep, that always happens. You got to be able to think on your feet. So what's Moultrie Mobile giving away at Huntstock, New York, and Massachusetts this year? Because you guys stepped up and doing a bunch of great giveaways, which is awesome. If you tell the folks about that a little bit, what they can expect to win.
Absolutely. So, you know, we're going to make sure that folks walk away with some really nice things to go get out in the field and help them be successful. So the plan is for Thursday night and Friday night, I'm going to give away 3 separate 2-packs of Edge Pros. So those are going to go home with 3 lucky winners each night. Friday night, and what is it?
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, I'm going to do a grand prize, which is going to be 4 2-packs. That's going to go to 1 winner. So a total of 8 cameras is going to go home with 1 winner.
Yep, and that's like $1,000 right there.
Yeah, easy.
That's a big prize, and thank you very much for that. We're excited about that. And yeah, man, I mean, Huntstock's coming up quick. I'm going to see you, you know, in 2 weeks at the New York show. You're not going to Massachusetts though, are you? Wait, you are.
So I will see you next week at Huntstock in New York.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, and this is so unfortunate, like it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to make it to the August show. It's not totally out of the realm of possibility. Yeah. Now, my team will be there. I will have a booth at Massachusetts, but I have a wife at home that is 7.5 months pregnant. And
I'm just remembering that we had this conversation like a few days ago. Like my brain is already in foggy mode of like doing a million things a day that I'm just remembering now.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll definitely be in New York. Massachusetts is kind of TBD, but for the folks listening, Moultrie is going to be there, and we're going to have the same awesome stuff regardless.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be at both events for you for sure.
Yeah, and again, congratulations on the future baby. It's an exciting time for sure, man. This is your first one, right?
It is. Yeah, I'm going to be a brand new dad for the first time. I'm scared to death, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. You can't really prepare yourself for it, but you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and your wife, and and your bond. You know, because when that kid comes out, all heck breaks loose. You know.
Yeah, well, you know, having a little boy, so I've got a built-in hunting buddy, and man, I'm super excited to see how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, sweet, man. Well, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to close with before we end the podcast? Anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah. So you guys, you can't feed up there in that area, right? Can you feed? Can you hunt over bait?
You can't hunt over bait, but you can bait / feed, put out mineral in Massachusetts anyway, up until 2 weeks before the season starts. So you're allowed to do that. Then you have to remove everything.
Okay. Well, I still want to talk about our new product launches. So we have a new product, Pat. I don't know if you and I have had the opportunity to talk about it, but please make sure everyone has the opportunity to hear about it. We have something called Feed Hub. And this is basically taking the power and convenience of your cellular cameras and we're throwing it in a feeder. So what this is going to allow the user to do, you can take any feed, as long as it's a spin cast feeder that uses a battery for the motor. This is a system that is going to allow you to see what your feed levels in your hopper are. So when it's time to go refill the corn or the feed or whatever you're feeding. And then it also has a module that wires into the motor that instead of having to be at the feeder to set your feed times and your duration and how often it's going to go off and all that, everything is done from the Moultrie Mobile app, just the same place where you go and see your pictures and your videos. So it's a one-stop shop where you can take full control of your feeder from your phone, just like you can your cameras now. So
That's super cool.
It's a really neat product. We're industry first bringing this to market. Definitely go read about it. So we are launching that product full force to market tomorrow. It's dropping tomorrow. Go to Moultrie Feeders,
Wow.
go to Moultrie Products, go to Moultrie Mobile and check it out. We've already put out a teaser on it, but it'll be available tomorrow. And then the new Edge series cameras, the Edge 2 and Edge 2 Pro, those are going to be dropping for the public on the 16th. So stay tuned for all those new products to be dropping.
Awesome. Yeah, I know there are some northeastern states where you can feed, like New Jersey is a big one. And we get quite a few folks coming up from New Jersey, both to the New York and Mass show. So at least have some pamphlets or something to show those folks at Huntstock.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Cool. What else? Anything else in the hopper that's coming out that you can talk about?
I got to say, stay tuned. There's a lot of really cool stuff on the roadmap that I can't necessarily talk about today, but those new products and the new cameras, new feed hub, and new accessories, go check those things out, man. That's really going to change the game for everything that you're doing from a remote scouting tool. Can't say enough about it, but go learn about it. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Not that, I'm not necessarily trying to push people to my social, but Amos_outdoors is where you can get in touch with me if you have any questions for me specifically, maybe about the field team. But if you want to go and have an opportunity to get on this field team, if you go to that field team page on the Moultrie Mobile website, you can definitely link in through there and apply. And for sure, want to talk to folks that are super excited about, passionate about the outdoors, and want to jump on the team and help us grow and spread our message.
Cool. Yeah. And then people can, some of those folks they'll see you at Huntstock, New York, and get to shake your hand, talk to you there. And thanks again for everything that you guys are doing. Thanks for believing in Huntstock and sponsoring Huntstock and forging this relationship with me, because I really appreciate it. And we need, we needed to get some buy-in from folks who are willing to take risks in order for Huntstock to be successful. And you guys are a part of that. So again, thank you very much. And we'll see you in a couple weeks there at Huntstock in New York.
Yeah, no doubt. And me personally, I feel like you guys have got something really unique and really special going on with Huntstock. So great job for what you've done to get that where it is and have the type of buy-in from the folks that you have. Definitely something unique. And if you've not made it out to a Huntstock, I highly recommend that you get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Joe. This is another episode of the Hunt Suburbia podcast, and we're signing out until the next one.